So what we're going to do here is we got a blank piece of paper, and we're going to indicate, we'll start from the beginning here, and we're going to indicate a particular figure, all right? And we're dealing with the whole figures, and these figures again are going to be background figures in support of, you know, in support of whatever painting you're doing. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to get sort of a characteristic movement or a characteristic shape to indicate that figure. So let's start with probably, let's say something like this. All right, we're gonna take a little oval for the head, and again, generally, heads are not generally round; they're more oval shaped or square headed. Okay, but we're just going to indicate what we want to do here. So the hair is going to come off here, and the body, upper body, let's say, is something like this. All right, so we got a small oval here and a little bit of a round there. And assuming this is a woman, we have this skirt that's going to come out down into this area here, and the legs are going to come down maybe sort of like this, and perhaps maybe this person's got her arms on her hips, okay, and she's looking down. So the general angle of this thing and how it's done is all part of the structure of what we're doing. So we got a lady that's sort of in general got some character to her, and again, this is just a characteristic shape of a figure. Let's see if we can just build on this one figure to start. And if we're going to build on this one figure to start, we're going to I'll take a small, we're going to use this brush here, which is a small round brush. Okay, and what I'm going to do is here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wet the face. Okay, this is the face, the head, all right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to mix a little bit of my opera with my Naples yellow to get a flesh tone. I'm going to put that flesh tone in here and let it float in. That's all I'm going to do. Now, that's my head. My legs and my arms are going, because if they're bare, are going to be the same thing. So let's just take a look at this. To start, we'll say, okay, here's my arms. We'll wet the area, and wet the area for the legs, and do the same thing. Take the mixture that we had of a little bit of opera and a little bit of Naples yellow mixed together for flesh tones. And we're going to let them float in here. So we're just adding the tone. We got water in there, so we're just adding the tone. That's all we're doing. Now, we have to make a decision. Does this woman have on a blouse, a skirt? Is it dark? Is it light? You know, you just sort of have to sort of come up with something. So let's take and do the same thing. Let's come down here with the upper blouse area, and let's assume that the upper area is maybe just light. Okay, so we'll take a little bit of cerulean blue. I wet the area, and now I'm just going to just float it in. Got it? A little bit of float, and let the rest of it do whatever it wants to do. The skirt, the same thing. We're going to come in here and we're going to wet it down to where it's going to end, and we're going to allow this color to blend into the color that we're going to put in. So let's say we're going to do a brown skirt. So I'm going to start at the bottom and move my tone, if you will, my pigment, up from the bottom where I wet it, right here, we'll make it a darker skirt. Alright, and let it just go on into the top bodice of the blouse area and so forth. What else do we need to do? Well, while that's all playing around, because this color here, let's just do something so that you can get a better feel for this. We'll use a little bit heavier pigment here on the top of the shoulders and let it come down. We want that all to sort of play together, blend together, do whatever it wants to do. A little bit of, again, my mixture of opera or permanent rose. Mix it up with my Naples yellow. Now you can use other colors here. For instance, I can mix that opera or permanent rose with yellow ochre and it'll come out as well. Alright. We have this face. This face is going to be in sort of shadow in certain areas, so let's make that a little bit more darker. And we'll darken up underneath here and here, and we'll sort of do something like this and let it come down from dark to light. Let's put the hair in. Assuming that this woman has dark hair, I'm starting here, bringing it up. Maybe we have hair like that. I don't know. And assuming that this woman has shoes on, we want a little, just a little something to indicate shoes. Let it go. Let this all work together. The key element is just paint enough so that you're not overworking this, because we're going to enhance it. All right. For instance, I built the shoulder out a little bit and I brought it down, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Bring the shoulders down. Make that a little darker there. That's all you need. So there's a book by Draper that has a lot of figure work in it, and it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of stuff that you can take out of it, and if you can find it, it's a good thing to have at hand. What I'm doing is I'm just pulling some of this out of here right now. So, based on the way he works with figures, based on it's essentially the same thing. So let's do the same thing. Let's take a figure and say, okay. And again, I'm not going to do it in proportion to this. I don't care about that so much, but I just want to do a head that's up here. Right? We'll put a hat on the guy right there, so the hat's going to come up around, come down, and we're going to make them, let's make them moderately pear-shaped, create some interest, bring his shoulders out here, and bring his shoulders out so that his arms are carrying something. Bring his arms out here, and I'll bring another arm out here. Okay, and typically, if he's a big guy, we'll make him stand sort of like that, right? Now, if his arms are out here, he must be doing something, so put a pail in his hand here. put a pail in his hands here, right? And we'll make these overalls. Farmer's overalls. There you go. Now, here's my figure, and that's what we're going to paint. And we need some shadow, so we want some shadow in this area. We need some shadow here. And we want to indicate some shadow down here. And make his head a little bit taller. So here's the figure that I drew, and that's the figure I want to paint. So again, I'd go back and do the same thing. Let's start with the head. We know the proportion's fairly okay, so we're just going to wet the head. Okay, down to the neck. Come in here and wet the arms, where they're bare arms. Wet the arms. And come down. And what's going to happen is that's basically going to be our area, or whatever it is that we're doing in terms of flesh. So if I put my flesh tone in there and allow the water to just carry it out, okay, in the same way with this up here, take the hat, there's my flesh tones for the head. All I'm doing is I'm just floating the water right into there. That's down to his neck, by the way. We'll leave a white shirt on him. And we'll come up here and give him a straw hat. I don't know. Yeah, but we'll do that. How about that? All right, so he's got a white shirt on and gray olive, or maybe blue overalls, blue-gray overalls. Let's get some cerulean blue, mix it up with a little bit of my alizarin crimson. No, I'm getting too much. Got a lot of pigment here, but we're going to wash this in very lightly. So a little bit of alizarin crimson, a little bit of cobalt blue, sorry, cerulean blue, cobalt blue. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. My overalls. The straps are going to go up onto the shoulders. This whole thing is going to be overalls. And the tone of it is going to be the same. But I want to, as I come down, change it up. I'm adding a little bit brown to this stuff. So as I'm coming down, I'm going from this color to another color, changing up the colors as I come down. I added brown to the mixture of this blue. Okay, so as I come down, we're changing up the color. Same way with over here. As I come down, we're changing up the color. All right. And then I'm putting his shoes on. Boots, whatever. So let's get the basic value for the boots. Okay, something like this. And I'll put some darker stuff in there in a minute. So the pail, the pails are going to be light, metal color. So it's just a light, it's just the same mixture that I had, only I'm doing more water. And now, as that's wet, I'm coming around with a little bit more shadow here, adding a little bit heavier blue, a little bit more coming down here, maybe coming down here. He's got a pretty much of a good gut. So we'll bring this down. We'll bring this down. Give him some body, right? Now, look, I've got my basics darken under here, on the underside of the pail. I'm adding a little bit more of my brown in here. All right. And I'll do something here as soon as that dries because I got to create a rim on that. But I want to get even more pigment in here. I want this to be more pigment. I want that to be a little bit darker. I want that to be a little bit darker. And I'm going to do a little bit darker underside under his hat because his hat Alright. Underneath would create a shadow. Probably have the head too small, but we'll live with it. Right, so you can see the general shape of the individual, right? Now I haven't touched the shirt yet, but all the shirt really needs is a little bit of shadow. Just a bit of shadow. Right? In other words, let's say where the arm comes in, you need maybe a little bit of shadow there, maybe off the shoulder, maybe in this side. Right? Not much. Because all we're really doing is creating the illusion of a good-sized guy. Okay, it's the illusion. This general shape. This is too wet, but I am going to take and make this darker, and make that darker, all under here. And we'll put the pail in. We'll have to let that dry, first of all. Okay, so we want that darker up there. We want that darker down there. And when this dries out, I'll add a couple of little bit more helpful, punchy darks. But essentially, that's our figure. Right, so let's do another figure here. This is almost dry. I might play around with that a little bit. Let's see. Increasing this. Just touching this up a bit here. Okay. Okay, so now let's do another figure. Let's take a look at an individual facing away from us. Here's his backside. All right, and now he's got a coat on and his arm's coming down this way. pretty stiff. I'm going to probably change his arm up a bit. And let's say he's standing here with boots on, and he's got maybe rain gear. And following the concept, and he's got a shovel in his hand. All right. Okay, so that's my figure that I just sketched in, and if he's got basically the same thing, we're going to draw. We're going to take and we're going to wet the face. I've got crappy water, but we'll use it anyway. We'll wet the face area with clear water. All right. And come in here and we're going to float in some nice, if it's, I mean, I guess we're dealing with just fleshy tones, but we'll do this. Maybe put a nose on the guy and where his hands are exposed. I mean, fleshy tone can be anything. If you got a dark-skinned individual, it's going to be a little darker. If it's a light-skinned individual, it's going to be a little lighter. So the man's got a hat on it. He's got sort of, we're just going to wet this. Wet the area up here. And wet all of this area down here. Okay, whereas, so if he's got, typically if he's got slicker on, let's say rain gear. So let's continue with that yellow slicker. A little bit of yellow ochre and a little bit of new gamboge combined. We'll start with new gamboge because it's nice and bright. Right, and again, and I'm going to wet this. I'm going to wet this with a little bit of, we'll get this all nice and wet. And it's going to come down here. Now we have some highlights on there in the back. So with rain gear, bring some yellow ochre into this area, and because it'll be shadowy on this side actually, and probably under there as well. We'll utilize the white also to help this along, but all under here again. Let's just bring all of this down to this point here, and then his pants would be in his boots. So we'll deal with that, but a little bit more yellow ochre, and with a lot of pigment on the front, especially down in this area here. Actually, we could also probably pick up some burnt sienna and accent this a little bit here and there too, like a little bit in the front of that hat, and maybe some there, and maybe down in this area. It still has a yellow tendency, and maybe within the boot itself. Now the boots, we're going to do black, so that's a combination of French ultramarine blue and a little bit of burnt sienna combined to get this gray look here. So we'll just let me sweep that gray look in. Okay, and bring it across, put the heel in there. And we'll make that a little darker as I go forward, just a bit darker. The front of these pants probably would be a little bit darker as well. Okay, and then in here. Right, so this guy's legs, there you go. And a little bit of shadow underneath. I'm just going to put the eyes in right now because what's happening is that's all wet, so I don't want to touch that necessarily. Okay, so let's get some light gray in the shovel. Right, so we'll do some light gray. All right. And we'll make a nice, let's get some, make the side of the shovel dark. And then we're going to come down here with the side. Gotta let that dry a bit though. So, if that's shadow, maybe there's a little bit of shadow, a little bit deeper here. Okay, and I'm going to go back over here now that we did that figure. These figures are dry, but I want to put a little bit of shadow in this guy over here. Now, it's always a good idea to have reference material to go by. This looks kind of cool. This looks kind of pretty good because right now there's obviously there's a little bit of shadow down here and it's lightened up in this area. I'm just going to add just a little bit of a line to it, because it's already dry. When I put this down, that's pretty much going to stay right there. So if I put it down there, maybe a button, you know, maybe we bring the shadow, emphasize gentleman's girth. Okay, and then we have a little bit of shadow on the inside, and this on the outside of his leg here. The same way with this here, the shadow would come down probably his girth, and maybe come across. You know, emphasize this here. Okay, so that gives him a little bit more gutsy, sort of more body to, more bounce to the ounce, more body to that whole thing. Here, and I'm going to emphasize a little bit more shadow underneath. I gotta be careful with this figure, so let me just move around and keep my head out of the way. Well, actually, you know what? I can just turn this, make life easier for you and me and everybody else. All right. Do that. Maybe his eyes. And just give him and maybe a little something underneath here, just to right. This is not dry enough, but maybe we can I'm turning the paper just to give me this shovel handle here. Okay. And maybe just a bit of a shadow underneath the rim. All right. So there's 3 figures, and from here we're going to move on to the groups of figures. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight. Now this is white. We don't really need anything over there, but just we either have to put some, in order to make this stand out really super white, we're either going to put something behind it. Oh, in this case, what I'll do is I'll just give you just a slight cast of, just a little bit of a value back here. All right, bring that in. But essentially, all we're really doing, if I can be so, I mean, I say this over and over again, it's just characteristic shapes. And it's a good idea to work off of some subject matter. Trying to, you can do this out of your head, I suppose. But if you do it out of your head, you have to understand the basics. At the bottom of that pail, and then the inside of this pail. And then just a little bit of water on the inside of the pail here. And what we want to do is we want to bring this so this pail you're looking inside, that pail you're looking underneath it. I'm going to take a little bit of tissue. That's a little bit too dark under here. We just want to gray this down a bit. Don't want to make it so strong. Okay? So, again, these are characteristic shapes that are indicative of figures doing something. And they're designed pretty much to be a part of a painting. So, if I wanted to throw this guy, let's assume I wanted to put a shack or a barn door behind him, and so that he'd be walking out of the barn. You could play around with a lot of this. There's just a lot of ways, a lot of different things that can be done. This guy's probably just, I don't know, he's probably digging for something. Clan is something, right? So you want to just make sure that they're supportive of whatever you're painting. So we'll move on now to let's move on now to the group of figures. So a number of you wanted to know how to handle groups of people, or doing people in animated positions and so forth. So I just thought maybe we would just do this. I'm not going to do all of the stuff in the background, just going to do the people. But it'll give you an idea as to how to handle this. So the first one I put in here, I'm just sort of taking a measurement, and I've got a small piece of paper here, so I'm just saying, okay, let's take, this size person here and just put them in here and so forth. So we'll just start with, one individual. White slacks, looks like a lady, put an arm on her, hair, carrying a pocketbook on the other side. So these are we're just dealing with little figures here. These are people that are standing on line. And I think basically what we're going to do is we're going to do these like, this figure here is going to be a main figure, and we got a couple of figures that are right over here. And if we do this correctly, we have a figure that's somewhere in this area here. And she's sort of moving in this direction here. One leg is supporting her this way here. Got a pair of shorts on, and the other is moving about something like that. Now, again, accuracy, not too concerned about super accuracy here, just we need to be just convincing. I'm going to put a person behind her. And one of the nice things about when you do this stuff is that if you build a couple of figures and you start building out on this, that you really don't need to, you know, you're not going to be doing all figures. That is to say, you're going to be doing partial figures here and there. Here's a person that's, let's just get her hair down here. Blouse, her pants, about in here. I probably have that a little off, up a little higher. And then we got a person that's behind her. Roughly the heads are all around the same size. I mean, they're all, you know, they're all going to be along this line, top line here, which is the horizon line. We have a person with a hat on. Right in back of her, and I'm just, well, these again, they're not accurate. I'm not looking at this thing from a point of view of super accuracy so much as I am just want to take some figures in here. The head here, person's arm is coming down somewhere in here, and they have a skirt on and then legs. A little puffed out skirt here. We'll put a little, so we'll probably build some figures behind them. These are just sort of groups. Let's take this here. We got another person that's standing over here. And we have an individual that's standing and maybe facing another direction. All right, so we're going to just fill in the blanks here, throw some bodies back here, and we'll do those as we go forward. Just sort of mainline people walking in line, waiting in line. All right. Now, I don't want to do all of the background. We may fill that in, we may not fill that in later. This is just groups of people. So here's my rough, and we'll do this component by component. Okay, so let's just get started. We'll just start with a figure that's one of the foreground figures. Let's just take and put a little water in the face, in the head area, and wet down into the upper body area. And we're just going to follow this along, and what we'll do is we'll just put some nice strong color in there, and we'll make her jacket light. That's all. And let it, just sort of let it bleed down. And if she's got white pants on, assuming she's got white pants on, what we'll do is take a little bit of my Pail red or one of the reds and add a little bit of Naples yellow to it, and come in here and just let's say she's got white pants on, so we'll just do something like this to indicate it's a little bit too wet, but that's okay. We'll indicate the bottom of her legs and feet, and play around a little bit, and maybe we have a pocketbook right here, and a strap that's coming down, and just to give it a little bit more we'll just bring in some shadow on this side. All right, so there you go. Now, white pants, we'll leave it white, but we'll have to throw a little bit of shadow in there. So we're just mixing up a little bit of opera with a little bit of cerulean blue, a little bit of shadow, and we'll just soften this up a bit. There you go. And that's really all we need. So that's figure number one. Figure number two, I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to put in a little bit of hair. We'll tone her face. And let's make her hair there, and maybe we'll make a little bit of a ponytail there. Okay, and then we'll let's give it her backside. The back of this is the back area. And we'll take some of this mixture of my opera with my, or New Gamboge, I mean not New Gamboge, but Naples yellow. Okay, and let's make an arm. We'll make an arm. Now these are not exact, so this is just all we're doing was just indicating figures. That's all we're doing. It's just giving it a little bit of an indication of where how things stand, you know, shadow-wise. This lady here, that's her arm, and we'll come over here and give her a little bit of the shirt. Arm comes down. And she's got on, I don't know, looks like what she's got on is some blue pants or blue. All right, so all we're doing is just, again, just putting this in, and we're creating shapes. Here's a shape, all right, and then the shapes comes back this way. It's her legs, and adding a little bit of her, like her where the pants let go, and maybe come over here and do something like that for the feet. So to continue this, sometimes these can be done with a big broad brush too, but we're just doing a step by step so that we can get a feel for the kinds of stuff that you want to do if you want to do some figure work. So let's get a little bit more flesh tone in here, and let's take a look at this person back here, and we're just going to build up some head. We'll build up something back here, and we're going to put it around there. That's her. We'll make, there you go. And that person may have some real dark hair. We'll just allow it to bleed in, allow it to just sort of gradually dissipate down into the figure area, into the bodice and the body area. And she's got a skirt on, so this skirt full length, right down to the ground, and we'll just cut that off down there. So that's just all we need for that. And this tonal value here helps to create the lightness of this pair of pants here. So that works out. And I'm just going to darken up. Alright, so again, we got a grouping right here. Take out a little bit of that down at the bottom. Let's put in a dark head over here. And maybe shoulders on that person back here. And maybe we'll put something dark, like a dark pair of pants on this person back here. Doesn't have to be much. Again, here's an interesting person right here. Let's just shirt. Maybe some green shorts, I guess. I don't know. And again, the same thing. We're going to put it. This is a person in shorts. And let's do another one. Person behind it. The person behind that one there. And we're gonna put we'll just put a little red shirt on this individual. And maybe what we'll do is we'll put a pair of blue, I don't know, blue pants on that individual. So you can see how slowly this builds up, and what happens is that the key element here is that you have one or two figures that are in the foreground that are significant, and the rest of them, you know, it really is not that important. But for instance, shadow. Shadow coming across that leg there. You know, maybe we have a shadow in front of this person here. And give it a little bit of shadow there in that one. And okay, so we can see the grouping start. We have a blonde person. We'll make that nice little bit of yellow hair. And okay, halt the top, I guess, or something like that. All right. So it's just gesture. It's a gesture of an individual that's in that area. You know, not specifically any major individual, but we're just dealing with a grouping of figures that are milling around in a crowd. So let's continue to do this. Put some more figures in here. And we're just going to build this up. And again, the idea of putting figures in here are not to be definitive. We're not looking for an exact figure. We're just looking for facsimile, a characteristic shape, I guess, where we want to go. Characteristic shape, a symbol of a figure more than the actual figure itself. So, and you know, the idea is also interesting in that we don't always have to have flesh color to do flesh colors. Just a little something here and there. So let's take this here and let's say we want to put a figure back here. I got something started here. So let's do a let's go around this body here, and we're going to lighten it up. So what I'm going to do is I put some tone in there, and then I'm going to just come in here with water to give it a lighter area. So this shadow where I put the dark piece, and that's just basically tone. It's going to come in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and put the face in. And we're going to put the face in somewhere about like this. Right, and notice what I did. I didn't do a round head. I did a square, actually it's a little square head. Now, and then this person has probably what looks like white shorts on or something like that. So I'm just coming back and saying, okay, if that's the case, then let's get some white shorts, and then maybe from here on down we'll do the legs right there, and we'll come over here and we'll do the same thing with this. We got a person that's right here, and put a red shirt on this lady. Now there's certain things that we're not going to be able to do, obviously, but so I can't do the intricate designs necessarily of all of the patterns of little floral things on the individual, but you're going to get the picture of overall. Right, so we have lady's dress, and again going back in here, and we'll put maybe a leg there, leg here, and maybe person's got, let's put her face right there. Again, we're not trying to be specific. That is to say, I don't care about the detail of all of this. I'm just trying to create the illusion of a group of figures. One back here. Water. Water, shorts, I'm allowing all of this stuff to sort of bleed together, and we'll put face on that person right there. And it's just a little nothing figure. And I blotted it out because I'm going to play around with it in a little while. Let's just come in here with let's say something. Maybe this person has an orange shirt on, huh? I didn't And then we'll take some water, plain water, just go up there and let it softly bleed down. Same way with up here, we have a little bit of a head. Now there's certain things that we are not doing here that I'm going to show you how to do in a minute, but just want to continue to do a bunch of figures. The more figures that we do, more interest we're going to create in this whole thing. We got a house back here, but I don't want to do anything with that right now. What I do want to do is to create a little dark area right here for shorts. I'm going to just say, okay, we're just going to got a skirt over here that's going to come down, and we have some shadow in that skirt, say there, and right there, bottom. All right. Person has a light shirt on, pair of shorts maybe again, and probably the legs of an individual, maybe the head of the individual. And just a figure like this, all it is just a blob here, this sort of circular blob. That little white area right there indicates shorts. So he's got a rather robust upper body. We'll do the same thing. Maybe over here we'll take we're going to do something like that, and so that's that movement, and maybe the head's going to go in here, and it looks, we're going to make him look like he's stepping forward. Pair of slacks on, one there, and then we need to support down here like that, so that one leg is stepping forward, one leg is supporting them that way, walking away. Maybe a figure back here. So you can see how you can easily build a group of figures. Little line. I'm going to show you something here. So we're going to do a little shadow here. Put a hat on the guy. Okay. Put a little bit of color in this guy. So what I've done is I've just sort of built this line of people. And nothing's definitive. All we're really interested in doing here is just to put in figures that will help to enhance our painting. That's the only thing that I'm doing. If I were to come in here, for instance, and do this, let's say we're going to do the side of the house. Just out of curiosity here, let's just do something here. And I'm going to sort of wash in very lightly. Say the side of this house. Okay. Sorry about that. I was painting without realizing that I was not actually showing you anything here. I'm just playing around right now, just saying these guys are on grassy area. So we want to anchor them to the ground. All right. Okay, so this is wet, obviously. Just an idea here. To this area down here. I'm putting those in. That's all wet, so I can't do anything with that right now. But I'll put windows in there when it dries. So, okay. So let's get my smaller brush and put in some real darks here and there to help this along. Now, one thing you want to do when you're doing this is make sure you have pigment. And what's happening here is I'm fighting to get good pigment. Okay, so let's see if we can do put a pair of glasses on this person here. Put some hair on that person there, make it a little darker. Make that jacket a little bit darker. What we want is basically a series of darks and lights. Okay, so I'm just taking a couple of these and I'm just saying, let's darken up certain things here and there. Just playing around. I'm not sure I can even do that. Let's see right now. Don't need much. Just a few indications here and there of whatever it is. I want to make this a little bit brighter. Right. And I want to soften this up a bit here. Little house. So they're standing in the yard. Now the only thing that I don't have here is that we need to do is put a little bit of these shadows in these areas down here. Just to indicate some shadowed areas. And we'll rough in some darks and some lights. For instance, maybe there's give it a little bit more character. But my point is, what we were building here is not so much all of the background, the house, and all that other stuff, which I'm just indicating really as a sketch, but the people. So let's change this up a little bit, and let's go back to actually the people itself, and let's start to look at the drawing. And now this is just a loose sort of sketch, but we're going to start to do something a little. Okay, this group of figures were finalized, and this is even looser. These figures are even looser than the 3 figures that I did initially in the beginning. But I wanted to show you how you can get things down quickly. If you're outside sketching, this is sort of the way to do it. You can move all of this stuff in. I mean, this house was just, it looks fairly decent too, just tossed in there after the fact. But anyway, again, figures are meant within a painting. These types of figures are meant in the painting to help enhance the painting, to make it more personable, and to bring a humanism into your painting. And they don't have to be overly specific or, you know, super regimented. They're indications of movement, and that's all they're meant to be. I mean, I can look at this thing and I can say, okay, we need to change up a lot of different stuff. And that may be true. And I mean, we can probably, I'm just using a pencil right now, maybe brighten a little bit of that up there, maybe throw a couple of things in there. I don't actually have notice something that I forgot to do, is I forgot to put a head in this guy. My God. Yeah, let's just put a little head. Let's take this and take this. Yeah. This guy's talking to that guy. So all I'm doing is just making this a little bit of a square head. Okay. So essentially it's just a grouping that look like figures. They're not absolutely figures, it's just crop movement of paint in different positions, but they generally tend to have an overall feel of a lot of figures in the area. So that's it for now. Thank you for being with me. I appreciate it. Hopefully you got something out of this, and this is something that you can use going forward to try to incorporate some figures into your paintings. So take care. Thanks for being with me. Bye-bye.